Good morning, Anne, and delighted to have you join us from Brooklyn. Morning, Peter. How are you doing? Yay, the Freedom Riders got to DC yesterday. Terrific. Thanks for the information, Peter. They had a great go-go band, huh? I'm sure you danced all night, Peter. Morning, Jeff. Northern Frederick County. Great. How are you doing? It's good to hear your voice, in a manner of speaking. Gorgeous, gorgeous day this morning. It's light, nice and bright and not humid. Good day to go out walking. Yeah, the weather's wonderful, Robin. I'm glad you got the windows open. I have too. Peter says Muriel Bowser, Representative Eleanor Holmes Norton, everybody was there supporting S1, the DC statehood, and the John Lewis voting bill. Morning, Vincent. It really is a good morning. Morning, Brian and Leanne. Welcome. Christine, welcome. Oh, yeah. Peter reminds us that there's a philosophy discussion today, the limits of reason. Hi, Perry. Good morning. Looking forward to your music today, Perry. Good morning from Susan and Walter Ewing. Good morning to you both. Morning, Joe. Good morning to you. You're such a traveler, Joe. I'm not quite sure where you are dialing in from. Great, you're in DC. That's terrific. Shirley, good morning to you from your back porch. It is really a lovely morning. It's sort of, I can look out from my window and see everything looking perfect. It's really gorgeous. Morning, Joni and Wayne. Just a few more minutes before we start. Good morning, Laura. Okay, Perry informs me that it's not Joni, it's pronounced Johnny. Okay, great. Sorry about that. Morning, Donna. I think it's time we started. So let's all settle in. Franco says, hello from DC. This is Lynn and Ciro Franco joining for the first time to explore Washington Ethical Society. Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you here. Okay. Well, here we are. Welcome, and do continue to say hello in the chat. If you're visiting from another ethical society, please give us a shout out to that as well. If you want to share your messages with everybody, please be sure to make your chat settings at all panelists and attendees. This is a great time to get a candle to light during our candle lighting. Then settle into a comfy seat with your beverage of choice as we continue to gather. Our opening words. A little unusual choice today, but instead of selecting a quotation or a piece of poetry or a piece of prose from somebody, I thought I'd just share something that I wrote in reflecting on the topic for today that Christian Hayden is going to present. Christian has presented several stimulating platforms at West before, and he will speak today on a subject that's really important to me, and I expect to most of you as well. He explores perspectives on ethical living. Let me say this by way of opening words for this morning platform. While I personally enjoy thinking about ethical philosophy, at a fundamental level, ethical living is, to me, all about assumptions, behavior, and choices. I find this to be both fascinating and challenging. When I was a young man, everything seemed to be pretty clear, right and wrong, ethical, unethical, and I applied the perilous judgment of youth to consider and evaluate my own and other people's actions. I had no time for people who said, oh, but there is this and then there is that. I labeled them as prevaricators wanting to have their cake and eat it too. And I judge such people harshly. My understanding of what is an ethical action and an unethical one has thankfully evolved somewhat since those simpler days. Today, I'm trying to understand culture, history, context, and their influence on decisions and choices. I'm also trying to see the person behind the action as a full human being, to be understood with compassion and kindness, while still assessing the impact of their actions. I'm also so aware that I need to be much more compassionate towards myself and not to excoriate myself for the many wrong choices and mistakes that I think I have made and continue to do. This frees up energy and helps me to make better choices going forward. In the strange circumstances in which we find ourselves in our country today, trying to live an ethical life is not as simple as I used to think. Yet, how important it is to live intentionally and ethically, separating, finding a space between stimulus and response, and inserting space and time for informed reflection. So, I'm really looking forward with anticipation to Christian's exploration of perspectives for ethical living.
When you're feeling lost or a little blue, and the world around isn't what you used to, you are all sad. Now life shakes that dream, paints an illusion. What does it all mean? Take a deep breath. Now it's a start. Take a leap of faith from your weary heart. Pull out your colors from deep within. An old seed planted, now a flower blossoming. You thought the days ahead would be a little lighter. You thought your steps would have taken you farther. Wherever you are, it's where you need to be. Like in the night, dawn's around the corner, dark in light. They'll teach you to be stronger. Wherever you are, it's where you need to be. Don't worry, what's been just begin. Pull out your colors, you might think they're dim, but only your hand can make them blend. See for yourself what's right before your eyes. It's your masterpiece with no disguises. You thought the days ahead would be a little lighter. You thought your steps would have taken you farther. Wherever you are, it's where you need to be. Like in the night, dawn's around the corner, dark in light. They'll teach you to be stronger. Wherever you are, it's where you need to be. Don't worry, what's been. Don't worry, look within. Don't worry, where you've been. Just begin.
Wow, that was gorgeous. Really, really beautiful. Good morning again, everybody, and welcome to the Washington Ethical Society. I'm Rajesh Vidyasagar. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the officiant this morning. As I mentioned, our speaker today is Christian Hayden, who's known to many of us as having led platforms on many, many occasions here at WES. Christian is a leader in training and is doing field work at the Ethical Society of St. Louis. The title for this morning's platform is Where We Stand, an exploration of ethical perspectives. It deals with how we establish our approach to and what guides us in ethical interaction with the world. We'll join Christian in learning about the different ways in which we engage in ethical and moral reasoning. Visitors from near and far, we especially welcome you. We hope that you'll say hello in the chat and that you might send an email to our membership coordinator, Maceo Thomas, who can be reached at maceot, M-A-C-E-O-T, at ethicalsociety.org. You can also fill in a connection form. Maceo will put that link in the chat, and we hope you will join us after the platform service for a chance to say hello. Our chat will stay open through much of the platform service, closing for the address itself and then reopening. If you don't want to see the chat, this is a good time to minimize it. Closed captioning is also available, and you can turn that on or off as you prefer. Each week, a member of our community reads our statement of purpose so that we might hear our shared values in each other's voices. If you're interested in taking a turn to read the statement of purpose, you should sign up, please, at tiny.cc/readsop. This week, I will read the statement of purpose, to which, in fact, we have all recommitted during the spring membership meeting. The Washington Ethical Society is a humanistic congregation that affirms the worth of every person. We strive through our relationships to elicit the best in the human spirit. With faith in human goodness, we appreciate each person's unique capacities. We joyfully celebrate together and support each other through life. We nurture a sense of reverence and responsibility for each other and the earth. We warmly invite you to join our community of children and adults as we work for a world where love and justice cross all borders. If you have a candle at home, I invite you now to light it as I share our candle lighting words. May we kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the light of understanding, and the fire of commitment to build a brighter future for all. Each week we ring this chime in solidarity with people around the world. Today I am particularly mindful of the tragic collapse of the condominium building in Miami and the over 150 people who are as yet unaccounted for. As we listen to the chime, let us remember our connection to each other and the world around us. Let us hold in our hearts all that hurts in the world. And let us commit ourselves to all that calls for our work and our love. Now is the time for meditation. Make yourselves comfortable. Place your feet firmly on the floor as you are able. Close your eyes or soften your gaze as you are comfortable. Let us start by taking 5 deep, full breaths. In, out. In, out. In, out. Today, as we are close to the other side of the pandemic, we have an opportunity to remake, redo, refine. Think of a couple of changes that you want to make in your life. Breathe in, breathe out. Imagine these changes taking shape. Breathe in, breathe out. How do these changes look? Breathe in and breathe out. How do these changes feel? Imagine yourself and life after you've made these changes. What feels different? Breathe in, breathe out. Enjoy the new world that you are creating, the people in that world, and the transformations that you're evoking. Breathe in, breathe out. We'll continue our meditation in silence, which will be followed by music by Perry Baida playing Legend by Sergei Prokofiev.
Greetings, everyone. I'm here today to at once play, reflect, and then imagine. How, and with what the thing that I wish to play with is the ideas of how we form the ethical responses that we go through in our lives. How do we decide what is to do, what is right, what is wrong? And my background as an educator, as a facilitator, working with young people and trying to find creative ways for them to think about dating and relationships is I try to use whatever resources I can find. One of those resources was the idea of the 5 love languages, understanding care from sort of in 5 different ways by Gary Chapman. And I decided to use that framework and sort of looking at to look at ethics. And so today, starting with the play, we're going to do this little quiz. So instead of a love language quiz, it would be an ethical, a language of ethics quiz. And it's going to be delivered as a poll. There are going to be 6 questions with 5 different answers. In order to see the rest of the questions or to answer all the questions, you have to pick one answer. And I would ask that you pick the answer that most aligns with how you kind of think about that question. So it may not be perfect, but the one that most aligns compared to the other ones. And what we will do is we'll see the results. I'm going to talk about a little bit about what kind of each of those choices mean and compare them amongst us. So if we could start with this poll, and I'm going to share the list of questions. Has the poll been able to come up? There we go. So as you can see, don't get scared out of the 45 notion. Okay, it's only 6 questions. But the 45 is the number of people. So once folks are able to go through the quiz, they're also able to see other people's responses. So you also get to see what the community is thinking. So the first question is, what is suffering? And so when I say what is suffering, when I write what is suffering, it really means like, how would you define suffering? Like, what would you imagine as like kind of the most significant kind of suffering? And sort of going through that, whether that's violation, having one's rights violated, or being without relationship, or a person not becoming their best, or a person not doing what they want, or a person cultivating a poor character. And the next one is, what are we compelled to do? To find our greatest joy, work toward the greatest good, fulfill our obligations as citizens of the earth, the nation, develop good character, maintain and invest in healthy relationships. Okay, so which one of those are the things that we say we're compelled to do, responsible to do in our lives? So in dealing with homelessness, those people who experience homelessness, what is the most ethical thing to do? And this is, of course, it's like, don't feel bad about, your answer. Would you say, would it be giving people what they want without asking? So no questions asked, so freely allowing them to choose? Or would it be advocating for housing policies that are affordable and wide-ranging? Would it be establishing housing as a right? Or would it be to build relationships with people who experience homelessness? Have lunch with them, speak to them about their day, right? Or what would it be to encourage people who experience homelessness to save, get mental health assistance, find employment? Right, so starting to see some are rolling in. Then in terms of approaching sex, what is the most ethical approach? Would it be practicing chastity and responsibility and respect? Would it be centering one's desires, or only within marriage or long-term relationships, or relegating sex to health relationships that are healthy and reciprocal, or participating in according to sex of safety health guidelines, as well as least harm, most benefit to others. So practicing safe sex policies, and outside of that, whatever's happening in between there doesn't matter. What is the best way to raise a child? So children should learn the rights, obligations of society, be encouraged to respect them. Or would you encourage them to delay gratification, establish highest virtues, encourage them to measure themselves against those virtues? Do you want them to learn and collaborate through relationship? Or would you want them to find the most beneficial approaches to child rearing and use them? So whatever kind of the CDC suggests is best for children, that's the way to go. But let them discover what moves them and foster what moves them in that direction. So allowing them kind of the pathways, them to determine the pathways from their own things that they're enjoyed or encouraged by. And then, so what's the ideal type of community? One with expansive rights and that promotes duty, one that fosters relationships and centers the least heard, seen, one that aims to provide the greatest good for the most people, one that ruminates on building good character through meditation and restraint, one that encourages people to be their most authentic, real self. So let's see you happy. So we got 13 out of 44 finished, so they'll be able to see. No rush. I mean, a little rush. You know, get a little time to talk, not too much. But yeah, so, and I hope this isn't stressful. This isn't a stressful way to spend your Sunday morning. But again, that's why I emphasize play, even though I'm asking very somewhat heavy questions, right? But still, play is important. So as we kind of get to start, I'm starting to see some patterns, right? So we're seeing in the beginning that for the suffering question, being with that relationship and having one's rights violated are the ones that are winning out. So with 50% of the vote, not to tilt y'all. For the what are we compelled to do, working towards the greatest good seems to be agreed upon by most. With maintain, invest in healthy relationships, somewhat of a second. And dealing with homelessness is a little bit of a split, right? We see advocate for housing policies that are affordable versus advocate for housing policies. For established housing as a right. Those are in tension. Okay, yeah, we're gonna just give a few minutes. Yes, once people finish the poll, they'll be able to see the results, and then once a significant amount of people, then we'll be able to see the results. So I'm just kind of saying it as I see it, and then you all will be able to see it once a critical mass. So 61%, we're almost there. So sex and relationships that are healthy and reciprocal are starting to pull away. Again, don't let my sharing lead you. The children question is a little split. Love to talk about that. Cool. All right. We're going to give it, so folks who might be deliberating very hard, we're going to give it probably about 40 more seconds. So as you go through these quizzes, what kind of feelings have arose? Let's do that body check for people who are finished. What kind of feelings arose? What kind of things maybe surprised you that maybe you picked or didn't pick? Did you notice any patterns? The thing I like to say to the young people is that they notice any patterns when they were looking at the questions. When you see the colors, did you notice any kind of things? Okay, so we're going to close. So folks, get like a few seconds, and we're going to close the poll right when it hits 8 minutes. So yes, I'm going to tell you, we're going to have, I'm not, okay, so cool. There we go. All right, cool. I didn't want to count down the last seconds because I felt that would have been cruel. Okay, so looking at the poll results, right? We have a winner, quote unquote winner with green, right? So suffering would be being without relationship. So a good amount of people picked that. With some other folks, with the second sort of, right behind it, like being wronged or having one's rights violated. And it's interesting, right? I wonder if I would have phrased some of these different, rather I said, not so much a person not becoming their best, but a person not being able to do what they, not doing what they want, but more like, or their desires are suppressed. Folks would have picked different. You still can't see the results, Sheila? Oh, do I have to pick share results? Okay, there we go. Oh, my bad. Can y'all see them now? Okay, I think I have a, so there were a lot of problems. Okay, well, we'll talk about it. Suffering did not mention pain or illness. Yes, I think I wanted to, yes, fair. But so seeing like the trends, right, around being without relationship, working towards the greatest good was the sort of what we can compelled to do one for the second one. So what are we compelled to do? If folks can't see the results, yes, if folks can't see the results, then I'm going to say them. And so just try to follow me as I go along. I'm going to share what I sort of notice as the top ones. And so for the interest of time, I won't share how much everything got. So what are we compelled to do? Work towards the greatest good was number one for the second question, with close behind, well, not close behind, actually, far behind, maintain and invest in healthy relationships. Which is interesting because, for a lot of people, suffering was that, but then the compelled to do was something else, right? So interesting. In dealing with homelessness, what is the most ethical thing to do? Establish housing as a right, one out, and then close behind that, advocate for housing policies that are affordable and wide-ranging. So those were the two top ones for in dealing with homelessness question. And then for sex, like what is the most ethical approach? So folks said sex and relationships that are healthy and reciprocal, right? Went out far. With second place being participate in according to health and safety guidelines. So that was like 72% for the lead with sex and healthy and reciprocal relationships, and then 22% for participate in according to health and safety guidelines. And what is the best way to raise a child? So 38% discover what moves them and foster what moves them in that direction. this is, and then the second place for that was learn and collaborate through relationship. So that encourage, so those two won out. And then what is the ideal type of community? One that aims to promote the greatest good for the most people, one out over one that fosters relationships and centers the least heard and seen. And then it's actually second place was one that encourages people to be their most authentic, real self. Okay, so that the top three for that one was that aims to promote the greatest good for the most people, one that encourages people to be their most authentic self was second, and then one that fosters relationships and centers the least hurt seen was the third. So if you notice that there was a attached to them were colors that were hopefully de-emphasized, but when you got a chance to sort of look past and look at whether you were listening to the results and when I said the colors, you saw that there were colors there and they stood for something. And so I'm going to talk about what those were. So what the blue ones were for, sort of trying to represent, was a sort of ethical outlook or ethical sort of moral philosophy around one that is we would attribute to Epicureanism or hedonism, but one that centers desire and one's desires are sort of centering joy. So pleasure as the highest good, in the sort of lesser framework also of avoiding pain. So that how folks sort of maybe move and live through their lives, right? Make sure that there's space for one to experience the things that one enjoys, and that's a good thing, right? So a lot of times ethical or religious outlooks will be like pleasure is bad or just one's desires lead to suffering. So this takes the actual exact sort of opposite. And one of the sort of the thought behind it was that we live one life. We're going to have one life, and then we're going to not be here anymore. And so it is probably it's sort of important for us as humans to actually do the things that are make us feel good. And whether that's sex, laughter, play, drinking, right? That the presence is actually centered, being present in one's life, and again, leaving space for that. And so one would also say that like overindulgence, right, would actually lead to less pleasure. So if we use the drinking one, right, well, one beer might make someone say, oh, I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling loose, I'm feeling okay, more free, quote unquote. 3 beers might lend to someone being, hungover the next day. So then they would not feel as well. So then also it's not a outlook for overindulgence, but rather the sort of intentional indulgence to the point of that allows one to feel pleasure. Then there's red. So that was meant to represent utilitarianism, which is acting towards the greatest good. And morality is determined solely by its consequences. So morality, in terms of if it's determined by its consequences, one is kind of drawn to behaviors or would start to encourage behaviors that are very concerned with what happens after them, right? And so as a result of those behaviors. So in extremes, one would say, oh, like it could be right, according to utilitarianism, to kill someone if it saves the lives of more people, right? So we think about the trolley question or whatever. And the less extreme is kind of, one would see how maybe this might work in everyday life, whether you're telling the truth about something, you're like, oh, well, maybe you don't tell the full truth and allows things to go or work out in sort of a way that's beneficial for most people, right? When thinking about, there's a lot of different ways to look at it and sort of frame it, but I always look at utilitarianism in a way as a kind of science concerned, quote unquote, approach to ethics, because the other part of it is that we intentionally are going to guide our behavior based on the outcomes that it presents. So when we see the outcome, we did something, say, you know what, this resulted in this. So maybe if we took a little bit out of, how much we like, how much meat we consumed. And then we added a little bit more vegetables and things like that. And we saw that, okay, its impact on the planet was less harmful. So that's the way we're going to act. Right. So thinking about that, and then thinking about that, like in terms of where's the emphasis on, is thinking about how things are going to impact in the future. So thinking about the consequences. Then green. So green sort of, for me, was sort of a very feminist care ethics. Thinking about how ethics emerges out of relationship. So there's not actually a predetermined like way to behave. It's not thinking like, oh, we got to follow these rules and that's going to end up getting us to the right place. But rather, how do we act in relationship? How do we allow folks to experience care? Because we're all kind of different people. So I might have certain needs or desires or challenges that require or might require different emphasis than being in a relationship with someone else. And so if one were to say, I'm going to bring these rules and understandings to our relationship, despite who you are, and I'm going to act with those in mind because that is what I was taught was the right way to act. Depending who I am, it may not work. For some people, that may work fine. For other people, it may not work. But so the idea of caring, the caring is the actual acknowledgement of the uniqueness of a person, and that together that people can form these ways of acting, interacting, and these their own kind of rules in that way, and that doing that can work towards a more just world. So when I say ethics emerges, that's what that means. It's not set before, but rather it's responsive to conditions and context. It's responsive to who people are and what they might need. And then we think about the yellow, which is kind of duty and right centered. So if we have fans of Kant, whom Adler was, though always disagree with Kant on some pretty important points, which is kind of the reason why he formed ethical culture. So it's important to mention. But doing what's morally right despite the consequences, right? So now you start to see there's a little where the conflict happens. When we think about the duty-centered things, think about the outset, what is most important, right? For if one has heard about the categorical imperative, right? There's all of us have an idea about what's right according to the categorical imperative. Like it exists and we are connected to it. So when we do something wrong, it's universally understood as wrong. So whether we lie or whether we kill or whether we cheat, those are going to be always wrong no matter what happens, no matter what the consequences are. And so again, in direct opposition to utilitarianism, which is very concerned about the consequences, more than what, the sort of framing of the action beforehand, the duty right centers things like we know that you're supposed to know what's right. One understands what's right, they act towards that, they act in that way despite whatever happens, right? So there's that story that people used to say, well, oh, if there's a person runs into your house and then you close the door and then at the door knocks is this person who says, is this person here? But you figure out that they want to kill that person. A Kantian sort of would say, oh, you have to tell the truth, even though it will result in that person getting killed, right? That's, sorry to use these examples, but these are the sort of the ways that people would play with those ideas, right? And sort of critique them. But then there's the purple, which is the virtue ethics of Stoicism. So thinking about, again, another sort of ethical outlook that is concerned with how one is acting and behaving in terms of what characteristics they're evoking or virtues they're attached to, over what are the sort of the consequences of what happened. So it's like there's character in the virtues that are important for sort of Stoicism is practical wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. So those are 4 big virtues that one is striving towards. And they're primed over other things, right? So there's other things that are not listed in those 4 virtues, right? There's not caring, there's not connection, there's not empathy, there's not, right? There are these things that, like, so when you choose, if one were to choose, like, this is how it is, this is I adhere to a sort of stoic approach. So I'm going to approach all situations. I'm going to curb who I am, my being, meditate, study towards being able to, evoke wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. And so, and again, and that was in thinking about what would have been the opposite of that one, right? That would have been Epicureanism, the hedonism, the blue, right? Is that your desires, centering your desires is like, whoa, you're supposed to be acting, strong, or I was going to say strong, but sort of reserved in a sort of way that is consistent and aligns with those four virtues. But what if I really like hanging with my friends and laughing, drinking tea, right? Then you're gonna be like, oh well, Stoics is like, this is terrible. You're terrible for laughing and wanting to drink tea. Epicurean would be like, you are doing exactly that's the highest good. I know Adam's gonna hate me, right? Well, and so I'm simplifying it more as a way of sort of trying to highlight some differences. I don't want to seem biased towards any particular one, but I do I do want to kind of sort of give people an ability to sort of pull out the differences and hopefully go further to study so they can critique me the next time I come and do a platform to talk about, this is how I feel, right? More Aristotelian than Stoic. But that's neither here nor there. The hope is that once we do this, is that we are able to do this and we think to ourselves, well, what are the things that I center? What are the things that are really important to me? Is it justice and caring? Or is it important for me to show the values and virtues that I think are important in building the society that's going to that I imagine, that I think is important, right? Or how I approach relationships, do I approach relationships with this feminist or care ethic that allows me to meet the other person where they are, but also form this kind of approach in unique engagement that is about strengthening that relationship, or about being able to be in relationship, and not necessarily figuring out, is this the way I'm supposed to be? But rather, there's no supposed to, right? And we're able to draw out, well, how does this person connect to ideas like love, justice, rights, right? So I think what I hope is that some people realize is what people will take away from this talk is that we may have varying approaches to the ways and the things that we prime, the things that we think are important, the things that we learn and feel like should be like the ways we should act. And then, they're different for others. But as we kind of sharpen and develop and kind of in like the opening words, kind of thinking about the way they've changed, how can I live more closely in the ways that I think are the ways that I prime, right? If I prime pleasure or joy, am I bringing that into my workplace? Am I bringing that into the ways that I engage with my children or the young people I'm in, right? If I'm about relationship, am I doing the work to make those healthy relationships where they're the reciprocal, right? If I'm about rights, right? Do I have a clear adherence when am I able to articulate what those are and make sure those are in the spaces or in the ways that I move through the world, right? That I respect other people's inherent rights, inherent worth, right? And work hard not to violate their rights. So with that, I hope it's given some food for thought, and that as we get into, as we're sort of the platform closes and folks share, they're able to share their own experiences or connections to the frameworks that they use to engage the world and act ethically. Thank you.
At the start of any given day, there is mystery available. There is a game waiting for an open heart to say yes. Here I am, I'll play. And if we're smart, we'll listen to the way, and all the misery that held us down, we'll let it fade. Let it be outshined by a simple spark of a life that's waiting to be made. It's waiting to be made. What will you make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make? At the start of any given day, there is history and poetry. There is a play, but you're not in the audience. You are the star. So get out there and say what you will make. What will you make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? What will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide just what you will make of this day? What will you keep? What will you change? What will you see? And what will you believe? What will you make of your dreams? Will you keep sleeping, or will you awaken and decide what you will make?
Wow, Leah, that was terrific. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Well, this is the time that we add our own voices to the morning, sharing our reflections on the platform, what resonates in our own lives. Just to help with the conversation, do consider the framing question: what perspectives do you bring to your ethical engagement with the world? I invite you to share in the Zoom chat or on Facebook comments, just remembering that Facebook is being recorded and will be broadcast on Wednesday. So let's start with Perry, who says, interesting exercise, Christian. I find that I don't use a single framework in all contexts. For example, I may use the care framework in a one-on-one relationship and the utilitarian framework in questions about society as a whole. That kind of distinction seems to be reflected in the poll results as well. Laura says, I was hoping to see the color breakdown. Let's see now. Different people have said, oh, we'd love to chat with you, Christian. I think Adam said that. Carol says, when you get a chance, I'd love to talk. Some FES folks are trying to do some work in New Mexico in the next few years, and it would be great to connect. Terrific. Okay. I bring a 21st century view of science and philosophy. The frameworks Christian is talking about have been central to many people from earlier times. Now it is much more complicated. Sarah says, I'm a woman of many colors, presumably, or apparently, sorry. Joe says, actually, Abby, sorry, just a second. My mom has this saying that I think a lot, that any system taken to its logical extreme is inapplicable to humans. I find it holds true, hence I agree with Perry. Anne says, I appreciate your emphasis on relationships, Christian. Epicurean / hedonism, allowing what feels good to lead one's life, centering joy, pleasure as the highest good. Utilitarianism, act towards the greatest good, morality determined solely by its consequences, etc. Perry says the leading choices by color were 2 greens, that's care, 2 reds, utilitarianism, 1 blue, which was Epicurean, and 1 yellow, which is focused on duty and rights. Okay. This is Wes at its best, stimulated by philosophical conversation. This is terrific. Jeff says, I have problems with 2 of the questions. First, as far as what we are compelled to do, my response has always been the only thing I have to do are to pay taxes and die. As far as child raising is concerned, the question assumes that we all have experiences. I have 0 experience. I never wanted to bring a child into the world. I don't know how to communicate with children, frankly. They scare me. I'm reminded of a line from the Rodney Dangerfield movie, Back to School. The best part about kids is making them. Okay. Well, I think you'll all agree that that was a very stimulating platform. I really appreciate Christian's work on this. Now moving on, just as we share our perspectives in this community, so too do we share our resources and gifts. Here at Wes, we split the Sunday collection between our operating budget on the one hand and a fund dedicated to justice and compassion on the other. We appreciate each person's generous giving as they are able. This month, half of our offering is dedicated to Life Pieces to Masterpieces, an organization that uses artistic expression to develop character and leadership, unlock potential, and prepare African-American boys and young men to transform their lives and communities. On the slide, I think you will see the number to give by text for today's collection, which is 202-335-1885. You can also make a gift online through the donate button on our website at ethicalsociety.org. We'll now receive your gifts and the musicians' gifts of music. Thank you so much to the many, many people who've helped to create this morning's time together. Interim music coordinator Leah Morris, the West Chorus, who will be singing shortly, membership coordinator Maceo Thomas, slide artists John and Abby Dakin, the tech host Johnny Buzek, who's done a super job, and thank you to Robin Kravitz for all the communication support. Coffee hour will begin at the conclusion of the platform. We hope you'll join us for that, which you can do by pointing your browser to tiny.cc/West Coffee Hour. Once we're in the Zoom coffee hour space, we'll divide into breakout groups, and you're welcome to drift in and out of each breakout group as you choose to greet different people. And thank you to those who are leading and supporting our work in the weeks to come. Don't forget, please put the community picnic in your calendars. It's on the 21st of August between 3 and 7 p.m. at Rock Creek Park. That's going to be real great fun. You can find details for these and all other events on our website calendar at https://ethicalsociety.org. We had a calendar glitch on the website, which we reported last week, and this should have been fixed. When you visit the website and check the calendar, please refresh your browser to see the corrected information. If it still doesn't appear correctly as after you refresh your browser, please contact Robin, but hopefully it will work. And you'll be able to see events like the philosophy group and the sci-fi book group who are meeting today after platform. Finally, interim leader Lynn Cox is on vacation and study leave until the 1st of August. If you have a pastoral concern, such as an interest in organizing meal deliveries or a piece of caring news, or you simply wish to have a conversation with a compassionate peer listener, you can email pastoralcare@ethicalsociety.org to reach the Volunteer Pastoral Care Associates. If there is an emergency that requires a clergy person, the Pastoral Care Associates will be able to reach Lynn, but substantively, the care we enjoy at WES is the way we care for each other. And we anticipate being able to allow Lynn to rest and recuperate and read up, so they will be ready to rejoin us in August. And finally, thank you all for being here with us. Now let's enjoy together our closing song, Somebody Come and Play by Joe Raposo, sung by the West Chorus.
Somebody come and play. Somebody come and play today. Somebody come and smile the smiles and sing the songs. It won't take long. Somebody come and play today. Somebody come and play. Somebody come and play. Somebody come and play my way. Somebody come and rhyme the rhymes and laugh the laughs. It won't take time. Somebody come and play today. Somebody come with me and see the pleasure in the wind. Pleasure in the wind. Somebody come before it gets too late to begin. Somebody come and play. Somebody come and play. Somebody come and play today. Somebody come and be my friend and watch the sun till it rains again. Somebody come and play today.
And now I invite you to join me in our closing words for the month. Let us go out into the week ahead with compassion, understanding, and commitment, listening for and living into our shared story for our hearts and our quest for a better world. Again, please join us for virtual coffee hour. You can find the link on the slide or in the chat. If you're new to this community, please send an email to our membership coordinator, Maceo Thomas, and introduce yourself. Look forward to seeing you all in the breakout rooms. Perry says, I hope to get to meet our newcomers at happy hour. Absolutely. Robin, thanks you all. I'm headed out to open up a coffee hour. Yeah, we're all getting ready. Anne Clayson says, many heartful thanks for this morning's program.